He's the opinionated Ottawa icon. The Rob Snow Show returns on 1310 News and Rogers TV.
We're going to talk about the development of a COVID-19 vaccine. We had the claim from Russian researchers. We have a vaccine. It's ready to go and people are taking it already. Then there was news from U.S. public health officials this week, just yesterday, and Pfizer, big drug company, saying that a vaccine could be ready for distribution as soon as late October of this year, like late next month, just ahead of the U.S. election, which is scheduled for November 3rd. And then you have the World Health Organization saying it doesn't expect widespread vaccinations against COVID-19 until the middle of next year. So what are we to make of all of these competing claims? Dr. Raywat Deonandan is back on 1310 News, epidemiologist and associate professor in the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
It's the Russians, right? The Russians. The Russians have it, right? Now, what do you make of all of these competing claims?
Well, some of them are valid and some of them are suspicious and some of them might just be dangerous. Okay. So the Russian claims are without any evidence. So I'm sure they have a vaccine. Whether or not it's safe, whether or not it's been run through the appropriate trials, that's unknown. The Chinese have a vaccine that's run through phase 2 trials that we helped develop, I believe, and they've already given it to their military, although the efficacy amongst the older demographic is questionable, and they have no plans to distribute it to their population, as far as I can tell. But the leading candidate worldwide is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which is in phase 3 clinical trials right now. And this talk about having one ready by November, that's surprising to me. That would mean that they would be skipping a big important section of the phase 3 trials for the Pfizer candidate, which strikes me as quite dangerous. So that strikes me as a political move more so than a scientific one. I'd rather put money on there being a valid market-based vaccine by early 2021 or very late 2020.
Okay. So late this year or early next year?
Yes.
Late this year or early next year.
That's right. That's the Oxford one.
Right. So 3 stages to a clinical trial, right?
That's right.
And some of these are already in phase 3 of development, which in and of itself is quite remarkable, isn't it, Doctor?
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible how quickly this has moved, and that's due in large part to people removing the administrative log jams that traditionally hamper these things, but also because the leading candidates were already built on existing development platforms that were just retasked. So a lot of them were for Ebola, so the work was already done, but then they just changed direction midstream. So a lot of the initial work had been done already.
Okay. Traditionally speaking, what do you do in a phase 3 trial?
Good question. So a phase 2 trial simply determines if the drug has a reaction. So in this case, does the vaccine produce antibodies on subjects? And it does. So all the candidates show it produces antibodies, very good antibodies lasting for at least a month or so. Fantastic. Phase 3 trial is the real-life application. So what we do is we give the vaccine to a bunch of people. We give a control vaccine, like a placebo, probably not a placebo, but something that doesn't have the candidate drug in a bunch of people. We let them both loose in a high prevalence environment like Brazil or India or parts of the U.S., and we wait to see prevalence of infection in both of those groups. Now, there's a faster way to do this, and that is to get some volunteers who would agree to be infected with COVID or exposed to COVID and see if they, in fact, are resistant. That's called a challenge trial. Okay. That's considered to be unethical.
Unethical, right? Yeah.
And no one's doing that as far as I know. Maybe the Russians did it. I have no idea. But that would be a faster way to do it. But because we're doing it the proper way, the phase 3 trial way, it'll take a few months to get these people, first of all, to get them to develop antibodies. Second of all, to get the probability of exposure. And third, to see the life cycle of the disease, see if it's lesser in the ones who were vaccinated and those who weren't. So we can't get around having this take a couple of months at least for phase 3 trials. The big barrier is enrollment. Can you get the 30,000 people needed to be enrolled for statistical significance. So a lot of the candidates are up against that barrier right now.
What sort of side effects would you look for?
Well, right now, the side effects for the leading candidates are pretty minor. They're more so than other vaccines, but they're pain on site where they're injected, there's overall body aches, and there's fever, which is pretty good. But those are for very healthy candidates. When this is unrolled to phase 3, which is a more diverse set of people, we might see more serious side effects, some neurological concerns, maybe even some life-threatening concerns. I hope that's not the case. But people are diverse, and there are going to be some kinds of people, some pockets of people who will respond poorly to this as they will to any drug. So we have to be able to identify who those people are and to rule them out. For example, I don't see this being applied to children anytime soon. It'll take years of testing before we try testing this on children. So,
really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
don't hold your breath for a child vaccine anytime soon.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised to hear that. This would not be a childhood vaccine. It wouldn't be part of a childhood vaccination program in a school system, for example.
Not yet.
Like
Maybe
MMR, for example.
Yeah, in a couple of years when we've ruled out, children's immune systems are different from adult immune systems, and they take special care and research and, a different ethical standard for experimenting on children, frankly. So the plan is when we get a proper one for adults, you vaccinate all the adults. That way the children are protected through herd immunity. So we protect everybody around the kids so the kids don't get it.
Okay. I'm curious now, when, say, that glorious day arrives and Health Canada approves a vaccine and distribution begins, will it be known how long the immunity lasts? For example, whether people would need a booster or whether it would be lifelong immunity from the vaccination itself?
Excellent questions. So right now, it seems unlikely we'll have lifetime immunity. The candidates right now are showing that most require a booster shot to get over like a 2 or 3 month hump of immunity. So I anticipate that any candidate that's mass distributed will require at least one booster shot, probably lasting the entire season. So a good year's worth of protection. That's my guess. So I can foresee a time a couple of years from now where we get our yearly COVID vaccine the same time we get the flu vaccine. And that'll cover us for the season, and then do it again the following season, as it were. So this will not be like the chickenpox vaccine that covers you for the rest of your life. It'll have to be taken several times throughout your life, probably every year.
Okay. There have been these scattered reports over the last few weeks about cases of reinfection, that people have caught coronavirus for the second time. What do you make of those news stories?
Well, the common cold is a coronavirus, and we get the common cold all the time, right?
Okay.
So there's a reason we study the bell curve in high school. The bell curve shows us that most human characteristics flow along this distribution, meaning that most people will get one reaction, but with a large enough sample, you're going to get some outliers who have strange reactions, and that includes the people who get easily reinfected. So it's not surprising that when tens of millions of people are infected, a few are going to be reinfected easily. That's because they're going to have a different kind of immune response. This does not concern me at all. It just means that for those people, you maybe need some extra special immunological care. Now, in all the cases so far of reinfection, the second case of infection has been less serious. In fact, mostly asymptomatic as far as I can tell. So it's kind of like getting a vaccine that makes you resistant to the disease, but not the infection, which is how some vaccines work, by the way.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Yeah. Dr. Raywat Deonandan is an epidemiologist and an associate professor in the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa. This is the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and 1310 News.